Why do we love something that hurts? Let's explore the fascinating neuroscience behind our love affair with chili peppers. This is the spicy pain paradox. Millions of people worldwide deliberately seek out food that causes them pain. But why? First, let's understand what's actually happening when you eat a chili pepper. The molecule responsible for the burning sensation is capsaicin, a chemical compound found in chili peppers. Capsaicin has the molecular formula C18H27NO3, a relatively complex organic molecule. Here's a simplified representation of the capsaicin molecule. It binds to specific receptors in your body. Capsaicin binds to TRPV1 receptors, which normally detect dangerous heat above 43 degrees Celsius. Let's explore how your body normally detects heat and pain. The TRPV1 receptor is like a molecular thermometer. When capsaicin binds to it, it tricks your brain into thinking your mouth is literally on fire. Under normal conditions, TRPV1 receptors activate at temperatures above 43 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to cause tissue damage. When temperature exceeds 43 degrees Celsius, TRPV1 activates and sends a pain signal to your brain as a warning. But here's the trick. Capsaicin can activate these same receptors even at room temperature, creating a false alarm of burning heat. Scientists measure pepper heat using the Scoville scale. Let's see how this works. The Scoville scale measures how much you need to dilute a pepper extract until the heat is no longer detectable. Here's a comparison of common peppers. Bell peppers have 0 Scoville units. Jalapenos have 5,000. Habaneros reach 350,000. And the Carolina Reaper tops 2 million units. A bell pepper contains no capsaicin, so it registers 0 Scoville heat units. A jalapeno pepper ranges from 2,500 to 8,000 Scoville units, giving it a mild to moderate kick. Habaneros jump dramatically to 100,000 to 350,000 units, which most people find intensely hot. The Carolina Reaper, currently the world's hottest pepper, reaches up to 2.2 million Scoville units. For reference, pure capsaicin crystal registers at 16 million Scoville units, which is essentially a chemical weapon. Now let's dive into what happens in your brain when you eat something spicy. Your brain receives pain signals from TRPV1 receptors through nerve pathways, creating the sensation of burning. When TRPV1 receptors activate, they send electrical signals through specialized pain neurons called nociceptors. The pathway goes from TRPV1 receptors to nociceptors, up the spinal cord, and finally to pain processing centers in the brain. These pain signals travel relatively slowly, at about 1 meter per second, which is why you feel the burn a moment after biting into a pepper. Here's an important question. Why does the pain feel completely real if capsaicin isn't actually damaging your tissue? The answer is that your brain cannot tell the difference between actual thermal heat and chemical activation of the same receptors. Now we get to the heart of the paradox. Why pain can feel pleasurable. When your brain detects what it thinks is dangerous pain, it triggers a defense mechanism, the release of endorphins. Endorphins are endogenous opioid peptides that function as natural painkillers, similar in structure to morphine. The sequence is, pain signal triggers endorphin release, which creates a feeling of euphoria and well-being. Remarkably, endorphins can be 18 to 500 times more potent than morphine at binding to opioid receptors. This is the same mechanism behind the runner's high that athletes experience during intense exercise. Let's quantify the pleasure response mathematically. We can model pleasure P as a function of time as endorphin effect E minus a constant alpha times discomfort D. Where P is the net pleasure you experience, E represents the endorphin-induced euphoria, and D is the direct discomfort from the pain signal. The constant alpha represents your individual pain tolerance and sensitivity, which varies greatly between people. When endorphin effect exceeds alpha times discomfort, the overall experience becomes pleasurable despite the pain. This graph shows how pain decreases rapidly, while endorphins build up more slowly, eventually leading to net positive pleasure. Not everyone experiences spicy food the same way. Let's explore why. People have vastly different densities of TRPV1 receptors in their mouths, varying by up to 10-fold. Your genes control how sensitive your TRPV1 receptors are to capsaicin activation. Overall sensitivity depends on receptor density times binding affinity, divided by your endorphin response capacity. This shows the distribution of pain sensitivity in the population: high sensitivity people, medium, and those with naturally low sensitivity. The good news is that repeated exposure can desensitize your receptors by 30 to 50%, which is why spicy food lovers can handle increasingly hot peppers. Psychologist Paul Rosen proposed a fascinating explanation for why we seek out this controlled pain. Rosen's benign masochism hypothesis suggests that humans uniquely enjoy constrained risk and negative sensations in safe contexts. The experience combines two contradictory states. Your conscious mind knows you're safe, while your threat detection system is fully activated. This same mechanism explains why people enjoy roller coasters, horror movies, and other forms of safe danger. An interesting question: what's the evolutionary advantage of seeking out unpleasant experiences? The answer may be that practicing responses to threat in safe environments helps us learn to cope with real dangers more effectively. Beyond endorphins, there's another crucial neurotransmitter involved: dopamine. Dopamine, the reward neurotransmitter, is released not just from pleasure, but when your expectations are exceeded. When you survive the painful challenge of eating a hot pepper, dopamine floods your reward circuits, reinforcing the behavior. The change in dopamine is proportional to the difference between reward R and expectation E. This means the greater the challenge you overcome, the bigger the dopamine reward you receive. This creates a positive feedback loop where conquering spicy food makes you want to try even hotter peppers. Let's walk through a numerical example of eating a habanero pepper. Consider eating a habanero pepper with 2,000 Scoville units. This contains approximately 0.5 milligrams of capsaicin. Peak pain typically occurs 2 to 3 minutes after eating, as capsaicin spreads across receptors. The burning sensation lasts 15 to 30 minutes, as capsaicin gradually dissociates from receptors. The half-life of the sensation is about 8 minutes, meaning pain intensity drops by half every 8 minutes. Endorphins peak about 5 to 10 minutes after eating, which is why many people report feeling good after the initial pain. Your heart rate increases by 10 to 20% as your body responds to the perceived threat. Sweating and facial flushing occur as your body tries to cool down from the false heat signal. The love of spicy food also has important cultural and social dimensions. Many cultures worldwide have developed rich traditions around spicy food, creating social bonds through shared experiences of heat. Importantly, the ability to enjoy spicy food is largely learned through cultural exposure, not genetically determined. In cultures with spicy cuisines, children typically begin gradual exposure between ages 3 and 5. In some cultures, the ability to handle extremely spicy food becomes a marker of toughness or social status. Beyond the psychological effects, capsaicin has real physiological impacts on health. Studies show that capsaicin can temporarily boost metabolism by 5 to 8% through thermogenesis. This translates to burning approximately an extra 50 kilocalories per day with regular consumption. Research suggests potential benefits, including reduced inflammation, topical pain relief, and improved cardiovascular health. Medical-grade capsaicin cream is actually used to treat arthritis pain and diabetic neuropathy by desensitizing pain receptors. An important question: can you build permanent tolerance to spicy food? The answer is that tolerance is maintained only with regular exposure. Stop eating spicy food for a few months and your sensitivity returns. There are actual physiological limits to how much capsaicin humans can tolerate. Pure capsaicin at high concentrations can cause actual tissue damage, not just activation of pain receptors. The lethal dose 50 in mice is about 190 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Extrapolating to humans, the estimated lethal oral dose would be about 12 to 13 grams of pure capsaicin. This would be equivalent to eating 600 to 800 Carolina Reaper peppers simultaneously, which is physically impossible. The real dangers in spicy food challenges are violent vomiting and potential esophageal damage, not capsaicin toxicity. Let's bring together all these elements to resolve the spicy pain paradox. The paradox is resolved through this cascade. Pain triggers endorphins and dopamine, which create euphoria and reward, making the overall experience positive. First, capsaicin creates a false alarm, that your tissue is being damaged by heat. Second, your brain responds with powerful natural painkillers in the form of endorphins. Third, dopamine reinforces the behavior by marking it as rewarding despite the discomfort. Fourth, your conscious mind knows there's no actual danger, allowing you to enjoy the experience. Together, these create benign masochism, the ability to derive pleasure from pain in a controlled, safe context. We can summarize this as net experience equals endorphins plus dopamine minus alpha times pain plus cultural factors. Understanding the spicy pain paradox helps explain many seemingly irrational human behaviors, from extreme sports to horror entertainment. Ultimately, the paradox reveals how our brain can create rich, complex experiences by combining conflicting signals in sophisticated ways.